Achieving gross motor milestones is highly linked to the amount of time that babies spend on the floor. Strollers, car seats, high chairs, accessories, bouncers, swings, and floor seats, all these are examples of containers. They're known as containers because they contain babies, literally. Excessive use of these containers can lead to developmental delays in babies. And that's because it limits the way that they experience the world around them, and it limits them from strengthening the muscles required to help them achieve developmental milestones. When it comes to your child's physical development, their ability to move freely is so crucial. When we talk about child development and developmental milestones, we're talking about their gross motor skills, their fine motor skills, and their communication skills. But we're going to just focus on the gross motor skills. So with the gross motor skills, it requires the whole body movement. This involves the large muscles of the body. So when we talk about gross motor skills, we're talking about being able to roll over, crawl, walk, turn their head side to side, lift their heads up, throw a ball, sit down independently, run, being able to balance themselves, and so much more. In order for babies to achieve these developmental milestones, there are certain muscles in their bodies that need to be strengthened. For example, babies will not learn how to sit if their core muscle is not strong enough. Babies won't learn how to roll over if their tummy muscles aren't strong enough. So in order for these muscles to get strengthened, they have to be in use. And the way these muscles get to be used is by spending time on the floor. Being on the floor gives them the opportunity to stretch, reach for objects, kick their legs, wiggle. They get to experience all these different movements. They also learn balance and coordination. For example, as an adult, you notice that when you're about to fall, you know how to put yourself back in balance. If you're sitting and you're about to fall, you also know how to put yourself back in balance. That was learned. That didn't just happen. So as babies spend time on the floor, they also learn how to balance themselves. If a baby is just learning how to sit and you push the baby is going to just fall. But over time, if the baby keeps falling and learning, they will eventually develop that balance. And that balance is crucial. Imagine walking with no balance. That's not right. So we have what we call developmental milestones, right? So this is where we say at 2 months your baby should be able to do this, at 3 months your baby should be able to do this, and all of that. Let me try and paint a picture. So let's say it's a standard in the world that every 22-year-old should be able to skip with a skipping rope. So at every time of the year, at a certain time in a year, 22-year-olds gather all over the world and they test them to see if they're actually able to skip with the skipping rope. So now an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, or a 20-year-old has never in their life held a skipping rope, has never experienced this, doesn't know what it feels like. And so on the day of the testing, they come. And then for the first time, they give them skipping rope. And they notice that they're not able to use it. And so they conclude that these people, something is wrong with them. These 22-year-olds were not able to use the skipping rope, not because there was anything necessarily wrong with them, but because they never got to experience it, they never got to learn before the big day. The same thing goes with babies. It's an expectation, for example, that a 4-month-old baby should be able to hold their head up. But if this baby has never gotten the opportunity to hold their head up by themselves, it'll never happen. That baby will turn 4 months, 5 months even, and may not be able to hold their head up. Same goes with sitting. So it's an expectation between 4 and 6 months that babies should be able to sit, right? But your baby has never really practiced sitting. And so that age will come and your baby is not doing that. Not because there's anything wrong with your baby, but just because your baby hasn't been able to practice that. There are some stages you can't move to if certain things haven't been learned. At 6 months of age, the iron bars of babies begins to deplete. That is why it's advised to offer solids to your baby from 6 months. So they're taking solids to up the iron bars. And one of the requirements for taking solids is the ability to sit with little or no support. And that's because when taking in solids, babies have to sit upright so it goes down the right way. I don't know anyone who is able to eat properly by lying down. You're most likely going to choke. Same goes with babies. So if your baby is 4 months and you're not yet teaching your baby how to sit up, your baby may not be able to transition into the next phase. And when it comes to developmental milestones, you hardly ever need containers to actually teach your baby these things. For example, the floor seat, the baby floor seat, it is advertised as an equipment that teaches babies how to sit, but it doesn't. While babies are in the floor seat, their hips are actually locked and there's actually no movement. It's actually really firm. So that way, the necessary muscles that need to be strengthened to teach your baby how to sit down, those muscles are locked in, so they don't actually learn how to sit down. So the first way you can start teaching your baby to sit is by having them sit up on your lap. And then you want to also teach them balance. So while you have them on your lap and you're holding their upper body, you want to move them side to side, and that way you're teaching them balance. And as they grow and become stronger at it, that's at 4 months of age, you can now transition to having them practice on the floor and having a boppy pillow around them. So as you can see with the sitting milestone, you do not need an equipment. The only developmental milestone that may need an equipment is walking, and it's not even the baby walker that makes them walk, because in the baby walker, the wrong muscles are being activated, and using the baby walker also causes a shortening of their calf muscles because they have to strain, they have to use their tippy toes. So the equipment that is most effective for teaching your baby how to walk is the push walker, and that's because it activates the right muscles necessary to teach your baby how to walk. The whole goal here is to make sure that your baby spends more time on the floor than they spend in containers. It's not just about tummy time, it's also side time and back time. Your baby should spend time in different positions because it's necessary for their development and necessary for strengthening the muscles needed for them to achieve developmental milestones.